Man, am I glad to see you guys. It's Friday. Haven't done one of these in a while. I get to give y'all my picks. Y'all are going to help me get out of my rut. So excited. I'm expecting to have a great weekend. Just chilling, relaxing. Nothing special, nothing major going on. I'm just looking forward to this weekend. I don't know why in particular. But in any event, got a lot to discuss today. Got some Thursday night leftovers. I'm heading over to the kitchen. Y'all can join me if y'all want. Just gonna shoot the shit today. It's Friday, man. Let's have some fun. You're dialed in to the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 291st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I can't believe we're into week 3 and I haven't given you a single pick from the Sunday slate of games this season. I've given you my Thursday picks every week. I'm 3-0 in the Thursday department, but I've yet to give you a single pick for the Sunday slate of games. That ends today. Barely. Okay. But I'm here. And I'm going to try to get everything in that I need to get in, say everything that I feel like I need to say, and get out of here. So without any further ado, let's jump into the Gem Droppin Session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T888. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, last night during the show, last night was a fun Thursday night overtime show. We talked about everything except the Steelers and Browns game. After I gave my, 10 to 15 minute, synopsis of the game and what I felt like needed to be done moving forward, nobody really was concerned about that game. We talked about it a little bit, but we got off topic and we started talking about random stuff. And somebody asked me more of a podcast question. And I said it, in the moment, like this is some stuff. I started to go down the black hole. I felt myself going down that rabbit hole and I stopped myself. And I was proud of myself in that moment because normally I would have gone on for 10, 15 minutes about things that people who were there probably didn't care to hear. But now I'm on the podcast and I can talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. And I can talk about it for as long as I want to talk about it. So there were a couple of questions that were aimed at me last night that I really didn't have the answers to. I did have the answers to one of them, but I didn't want to get explicit in detail. But somebody asked me, what were my favorite type of video games other than sports games? And I said, look, I was versatile. I played some of everything, but I was really a fight game guy. I loved fighting games. And I'm going to ask you guys a question. If you could go back and play one video game that you no longer have access to, whether the system that it was on no longer works, the game, you don't have it anymore, whatever the case may be, what's one game you would go back and play? And then it could be that same game or it could be another game. Give me the one game you would have loved to have seen a sequel to, another one of those come out. Mine is all encapsulated in one. So, and then I'm going to transition to some real shit. So this is a non sequitur Gem Droppin Session. We're all over the place. So this game called Rival Schools. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, way, way back. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. It was this game called Rival Schools. The premise of the game was it was these different schools. They were battling against each other. They were trying to figure out what was going on. There was some nefarious, shady business going on, and they couldn't figure out why it was happening or who was responsible. So each of these schools were different. They had their different quirks and things of that nature. But there were different characters that you could fight with at each school. Really good concept. And The graphics were great, and this was more of a Japan game that ended up coming over to the States, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, right? So then they came out with this sequel to that game called Project Justice on the Dreamcast. It was specifically on the Sega Dreamcast. Oh my God, it was so much fun. It gave me Marvel vs. Capcom 2 vibes. Remember, I talked about Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm going to take you for a ride. One of the best selection screen songs known to mankind. I'm going to take you for a ride. Project Justice, much like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, had the 3-on-3 thing going. So you pick 3 characters, you go up against another 3 characters. You can tag guys players in mid fighting. You could do team up, attacks, things of that nature. A lot of fun. Okay. I'm not a big, I beat the game guy. I was when I was a little kid, but as you get older, it's not about beating the game. It's about beating other people, beating your friends, beating people online. But even the storyline in the game was fun. And I enjoyed seeing what each person's storyline was and what their ending was when you would beat the game with them. That's a lost art. No one does that anymore. No one beats games anymore. You get online and you play other people. That's the fun of playing games now. Once upon a time, there was no online. Okay. Back in 2000, when Project Justice hit the Sega Dreamcast, there was no online. You weren't gaming against other people. So you played by yourself or you played with people in the neighborhood. So needless to say, I enjoyed that game so much. I wanted another one. That's the game that I would say, hey, make me another one. I don't really play a lot of, fighting. I don't play any games anymore. No games, any games, unless it's something family oriented. I told you that one of the few games that I do play is Super Smash Brothers, because I have a Switch, because it's a family system. We can play with our kids. I can play with my wife. So I don't have a PS5 or I was never an Xbox guy. I was always a PlayStation guy. So I don't own a PS5 or anything like that because I'm not a hardcore gamer anymore. I put the sticks away because if I do something, I got to be the best. I don't know how to be second. I got to be the best. And it consumes me. And so I'll stay up wee hours of the morning playing, trying to get to the level that I feel like I need to be at to be able to kick somebody's ass. And that's not healthy. I could do that when I was 21. I could do that when I was 18. I could do that when I was 15. Cannot do that as a 36-year-old man. So I would love to see a sequel to Project Justice, though. What's the one game for you that you could go back and play, you would play? My Dreamcast, I don't even think I have it anymore. If I do, it doesn't work anymore. And I know I don't have the game anymore. I would go back and play that game and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But I would like to see a sequel to Project Justice. And I've periodically checked up to see if I missed something. Maybe it came out over in Japan. Nah, nothing's come out. They've done nothing. That was a really good game, concept, graphics, gameplay, everything. Anyway, I digress. Somebody asked me a question last night too about college football, and specifically quarterbacks in college football, and what that crop of quarterbacks look like so far in the college football season. And my response was limited because it was on the spot. I hadn't given it a lot of thought. And so I sat down, I analyzed the quarterbacks that I think are going to be in the discussion, guys that were viewed as, NFL caliber quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy, preseason watch list, all of that good stuff. And so I comprised a list of, I think, 9 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks. Now, I'll tell you the ones I like, the ones I don't like. I'll tell you what I think and what I see moving forward. Now, again, a lot of college football left to be played. These guys, their stories are far from written. Okay, for most of these players, they're going into either their 3rd or 4th game of the season this week. So still a lot of football left to be played. But Bryce Young leads this group of quarterbacks coming in, to the NFL potentially in 2023. Heisman Trophy winner last year, leading the Alabama Crimson Tide. To me, right now, his performance against Texas on the road was as gutty and gritty of a performance as I've seen from a quarterback looking to establish himself as the first pick in the draft, as I've seen in a while. Probably going back to maybe Vince Young's performance in the Rose Bowl against the USC Trojans once upon a time. I mean, that was a big time performance down the stretch of that game after not having the kind of game that you would like to have in that environment. When they had to have it, they were on the verge of losing that football game, and they should have lost that game. That was a big time performance, and it won me over because I wasn't the biggest Bryce Young fan. The one thing I can always say is he's unflappable. I've never seen this kid flustered, even when they're struggling, even when they're getting their asses kicked. I've never seen him flinch, not once. And I didn't see him flinch in that Texas game, and that was impressive. CJ Stroud, not the biggest CJ Stroud fan, but I understand everything that he brings to the table. Like Bryce Young is 5'11" at best. Okay, smaller guy, solid athlete, but really doesn't want to run, in terms of Bryce Young. Whereas CJ Stroud, much bigger, probably a stronger arm too. Probably a better athlete than that of Bryce Young. There's a lot going on for CJ Stroud. My biggest problem with CJ Stroud has absolutely nothing to do with him. Has everything to do with where he's going to school at and what they've produced at the quarterback position. I hate the fact that I'm holding that against them. They tell you, do not scout the helmet, scout the player. It's hard for me to do that. Because in my mind, what's stopping him from being like all the rest of the Ohio State quarterbacks that we've seen come into the league? Justin Fields is still trying to find his footing. I'm not sold on him as an NFL quarterback yet. We know what happened with Dwayne Haskins. May he rest in paradise. I mean, we can keep going back. Cardale Jones. We can keep doing this. And we can keep lining them up and knocking them down. All the way to Troy Smith. Okay, we can keep doing this all day long. It's just a lot of bad quarterbacks that didn't fit in the NFL. So I've got my doubts about CJ Stroud, but all of the intangibles, all of the things that you look for in an NFL passer, he's got it. Will Levis from Kentucky, I'm not a fan. I'm not. I watched him against Florida in a big game early in the season this year. Wasn't impressed. He literally managed the game and said, hey, I see the quarterback opposite of me in this game imploding. I'm just going to let him throw the game away for his team. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not wowed by Will Levis. I've seen Will Levis, the young Will Levis that was at Penn State. I've seen this Will Levis that has blossomed a bit at Kentucky. Still not impressed. But that's not for me to decide. That's for someone else to decide. KJ Jefferson at Arkansas. Not a KJ Jefferson fan. Solid, skill set, big guy, physical, a lot of things that you like for college football. Don't necessarily, to me, he reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts. We'll see if he continues to develop or not. But he gives me Jalen Hurts vibes right now. Here's my guy right here, Jaron Hall of BYU. This is my guy. Okay, this is the guy that I've fallen in love with throughout the process of looking at these quarterbacks that are going to come into the league potentially in 2023. Obviously, he took over for Zach Wilson last year when Zach Wilson entered the NFL, played well for BYU, showed off a ton of talent, athleticism, arm strength, and arm talent, timing, rhythm, all of that stuff. He does a lot of things that you don't see a lot of college quarterbacks do on a consistent basis. You see flashes from guys, but you don't see it consistently. Hell, they just went and lost their first game of the season against Oregon this past week. and he was outstanding in the game. They didn't lose the game because of him. He made a ton of NFL throws and plays and decisions in that game. The defense just was overwhelmed by Oregon's speed and athleticism. And Jaren Hall is a guy that I really, truly like. He's my pick for the guy that kind of comes off the beaten path and ends up catapulting his way into that, top 15, top 10. I don't know. I think 5 is a little high, but top 10 discussion. I think he's one of those guys that catapults himself into that discussion when it's all said and done. Now, Zach Wilson not succeeding could have an impact on him, but if you want to separate the two, Zach Wilson had his own baggage coming into the NFL, inability to stay healthy, this, that, and the third. That's not the case with Jaren Hall. Like what I see out of this kid. Really like him a lot. Michael Penix Jr., he plays for the Washington Huskies. That name should sound familiar because he did play with Indiana before, and he's had some big games in his career to this point. We all remember, or at least you should remember, if you're a college football fan. If you're not, then this doesn't really resonate with you. But if you're a college football fan, then you remember the game he had against Ohio State. They didn't win, but he gave the Buckeyes all that they could handle. Justin Fields and company were on the ropes in that ball game. Penix had Indiana right in that game up until the very bitter end. And then he transferred to Washington this year, and they smoked Michigan State, who I want to say was like ranked 9th in the nation or 11th or something like that. They went to Washington and got the doors blown off of them. And Michael Penix Jr. was just unconscious in that game. He's a lefty, so he gives you Tua vibes. I still need to see more of him. Like, there's something that rubs me the wrong way about Michael Penix Jr., but he just continues to play well, man. He's a guy you got to keep an eye on. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. I watched him versus Texas A&M earlier this year. I want to say it was either last weekend or the weekend before. He stinks. I'm not a big Tyler Van Dyke fan, but again, it's a small sample size. I don't want to just go off of one game and say that he stinks, but I wasn't impressed. When you see a guy, and I've seen Tyler Van Dyke like 2 or 3 times. When you see a guy the first time, he needs to show you something, flashes, so that you can say, oh, okay, I can see a little something here, And then as you watch him more, maybe you see some more things that you like or some things you don't like, but at least there were flashes that give you the sense that this guy can play at the next level. I just see size, I see arm talent, but I don't see much else. He's not mobile. I don't see a guy that does the things that I think translate well to the NFL. So, not a big Tyler Van Dyke fan. Anthony Richardson, this is a guy that is very polarizing. I just don't see it with this kid. I see a lot of the things that you look for in a college quarterback. I see a lot of his traits being transferable to the NFL, but I also see a kid that's extremely raw. Don't love him as a passer. I think he's a better athlete than he is a quarterback. And so I think there are, flashes. What he did against Utah, I mean, that's the thing that's going to have someone be willing to take a risk on him. But if you watched him against Kentucky, that's the thing that says, hell no, I can't take this kid in the first round. Maybe the second round, not the first round. You watch him against Utah, you're like, hey, I take this kid in the top 5, top 10. So he's an enigma. Still a lot of football left for him to play and for him to grow, but he was terrible against Kentucky. Devin Leary of NC State was another guy. He was supposed to be a Heisman front runner, a guy that was on the Heisman watch list to start the season off. I watched him the first game of the season against East Carolina, and he was awful. Absolutely dreadful. He's not big, solid arm, okay athlete, but nothing here to see. I'm not a big Devin Leary guy. So those are the quarterbacks essentially. I think when it's all said and done, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Jaren Hall, and Michael Penix Jr. are going to be the guys that really command a ton of attention. Look out for Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. And then I think KJ Jefferson and Van Dyke and Leary and some of these guys will bring up the rear in that discussion. But Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Jaron Hall, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson are probably going to be the names that are the ones you hear the most come draft time. We'll see. A lot of football left to be played. I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, I digress. Let's transition to Thursday night leftovers. I'm heading over to the kitchen. Y'all know how I do it. Chinese food straight out of the box. I don't put anything in the fridge. I don't want to get too cold because I really don't want to put it in the microwave. Got leftover pizza. I might heat that up for a few seconds. But I'm looking to crush something. Few items that I left out just a wee bit. Couldn't finish it up the first time. I'm going to finish up these leftovers. We got a Thursday night game from last night. Browns get it done 29-17 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are the leftovers? I'm about to knock down some pizza, man. There's never a time where pizza isn't a good option. All right. Fresh out the box or leftover the next day, I'm crushing some pizza. Give me some ranch and I'm ready to go. Everything tastes better with ranch, in case you didn't know. Okay? Just letting you know. Everything tastes better with ranch. First leftover. Let's look at this Browns remaining schedule before the bye. Because after the bye, Deshaun Watson is eligible to come back from suspension. So I talked about the schedule. They put it up on the television. They put a little chyron up with the next 5 games. And I'm like, those are some pretty damn appetizing games if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Hey, you've already won 2. You should have won 3. You don't have to win many more, okay? You don't have to win many more. You've got 11 games before Deshaun Watson is eligible to come back. You're looking to get to 5 wins. That's it. 5 and 6, and you'll say, all right, Deshaun, take it from here. Jacoby's done his job. Anything above 5 and 6, and shit, you're winning. You've won. Watson needs to come in and pick right up where Jacoby Brissett left off and take this team to the playoffs. Anything less than 5 and 6, and you're like, hey, tough ask of Deshaun Watson, who hasn't played football essentially in 2 years, to come in cold turkey and dig us out of a hole and get us to the playoffs in a rough, tough, and rugged AFC. Let's look at these next 8 opponents. At Atlanta, that's a winnable football game. Home for the Chargers. What's the status of Justin Herbert anyway? Home for the Patriots. That's a winnable football game. At Baltimore. Home for Cincinnati. That's a winnable football game. At Miami, at Buffalo versus Tampa. Shit goes off the rails late. Okay. Shit kind of goes off the rails at Miami, at Buffalo, and home for Tampa. But at Atlanta, which is why they were clever last night on Thursday Night Football. They kept it to 5 games. They didn't go any further than that because they knew after that their narrative wouldn't be supported, which is, hey, this Browns team, look out. You throw in Miami, at Buffalo, and home for Tampa, and everybody's like, look, that shit's tough. You take that, you remove it, and you just look at these 5 games at Atlanta, home for the Chargers, home for the Patriots, at Baltimore, home for Cincinnati. Like, they could win 2 or 3 of those, right? I've given you the 8 games at Atlanta, home for the Chargers, home for the Patriots, at Baltimore, home for Cincinnati, at Miami, at Buffalo, home for Tampa. Those are the 8 games. They've already won 2. They just need to win 3 of those 8 games. Anything more than that, you're playing with house money. I think they can do it. Now, again, they're going to need Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to stay healthy and continue to do what they've been doing. They're going to need Amari Cooper to continue to be what he's been for them. They're going to need Jacoby Brissett to take care of the football, which he's done pretty much for the duration of the season to this point. They're going to need the defense to stay healthy. They've been dropping like flies. We saw some guys get injured. 2 of their linebackers, including Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, went down last night. So did Walker Jr. Jadeveon Clowney, what's new, didn't play last night. They knew what they were signing up for. Okay, Jadeveon Clowney never plays a full season. They got to stay relatively healthy on the defensive side if they want to try to get the 3 wins that they need to put themselves in a position to be ready for when Deshaun Watson comes back to make a run. But That's what it looks like. We'll see what they do. One at a time. At Atlanta, you got to find a way to win that game. That's got to be one of them if you're the Browns. The next leftover. Mike Tomlin definitive on OC Matt Canada and quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. Quote, I'm not in that mindset. So the answer to your question, definitely no. In terms of making a move on Trubisky or offensive coordinator Matt Canada. We talked about this last night. Tomlin is loyal to a fault. Now, I'm not saying that he's wrong in this situation. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer necessarily this early in the season. Okay. If we were 6 weeks in and this is what the Steelers are, then yeah, something needs to be done. But we're 3 weeks in. All right. Could have easily have beaten the New England Patriots. And this game was there for the taking for a huge chunk of it. They kind of lost their way late, especially really the second half. They were stagnant offensively, but and I don't think they scored a single point in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. But the opportunity was there for them, in this game. I would personally move on from Trubisky now. I haven't been intimate enough with the Steelers. I can just tell you last year the offense was terrible. This year the offense is terrible. There's one common thread. Matt Canada. Every Steelers fan I talk to is saying the same exact thing. We need to get rid of Matt Canada and we need to go ahead and start the rookie. There's no reason to wait. I've been saying the same thing since week number 2 after they lost to the Patriots. Like, okay, if this is what the offense is going to be, you snuck one in week 1 from the Bengals. Okay, the offense was not impressive in that game. The defense was the star of the game. The special teams was the star of that game. You lose in week 2 in your home opener to the Patriots, you score 14 points. The crowd is booing the offense because they were so anemic. You go on the road on a short week, Thursday night to Cleveland, and all you can muster is 17 points. So I think they scored a field goal on that final possession trying to get the onside kick. So that was the only points they scored in the second half was that field goal. You mustered a whole 17 points. If I were Mike Tomlin, and as a coach, it's different. As fans, it's easy for us to play the fantasy football game of, hey, this is what I would do. Well, you're not in control of other people's lives and livelihood, and you've got a locker room to send a message to, which is, I'm not going to quit on you after 3 games. That's not how I operate. I've already told you, as a young kid, one of the worst feelings in the world was coming off the bench and being afraid to go out and play, because if I made a mistake, I would look over at the scores table and somebody be taking a knee and I'm thinking, is that dude coming for me? That's the worst way to be playing. Scared to make a mistake, scared to go play your game because of fear of being yanked out of the game. Nobody wants to be a player, because if you get rid of a coach, if you'll get rid of our coordinator, you'll get rid of me or you'll sit my ass down. So you gotta send that message to the rest of the team. And I think he's doing that by saying, I'm sticking by these guys, even though it may be to his detriment, to the team's detriment. But I understand the message. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. The next leftover. Always make sure you dip it in a little bit of ranch. I'm a pour the ranch on top before I take a bite guy. I don't actually dip my ranch because vegan ranch is a little bit more runny. It's not as thick as like Hidden Valley Ranch or anything like that, where you throw it on the plate and you just dip it. So mine is a little bit runny, so I like to pour it before I take a bite. Delicious. Delicioso. Amari Cooper is the first Browns wide receiver to have back-to-back 100-yard games since Flash Gordon in 2013. Let that sink in for a second. The Browns haven't had back-to-back 100-yard receiving efforts by the same guy in almost a decade. That's how bad it's been at the receiver position for the Cleveland Browns. Yikes. Zoinks! Scoob! They needed a guy like Amari Cooper. And it just begs the question, what the hell was Jerry Jones thinking this offseason? I mean, the Cowboys are currently throwing the football to Noah Brown. Help is on the way. Eventually, they'll get James Washington. They'll get Michael Gallup back here shortly. But it should have never come to this. Amari Cooper didn't have to be a casualty. Jerry Jones made him one out of spite because Amari Cooper defied him. Told him, I'm not taking the vaccine and I'm not going to be a puppet for you. I'm not going to feel the way you want me to feel. And because I'm telling you no, you're going to get rid of me. I'm not one of your good old boys like that. So he got rid of him. Cooper's still a damn good receiver in this league, and he's proven it with the Cleveland Browns. First back-to-back 100-yard receiving efforts for the Browns since 2013 and Josh Gordon. Next bite. Some good pizza, man. In 3 games, the Steelers have scored a total of 57 points. Okay, them and the Browns have played in 3 games. No one else in the league has played in 3 games. The Steelers have only mustered 57 total points. The Browns are looking around like, don't include me in this conversation. I've scored a bunch of points in 3 games. Nobody has scored more in 2 games than I have in 3 games. That's the way it should be. That's what the Browns are saying. Don't look at me. The Steelers, on the other hand, 57 total points. 5 teams in the league who haven't played in a 3rd game yet have scored more points this season than the Steelers have in 3. The Eagles have scored more points in 2 games. The Dolphins have scored more points in 2 games. The Chiefs have scored more points in 2 games. The Lions have scored more points in 2 games. And the Ravens have scored more points in 2 games than the Steelers have in 3 games total. And there are a bunch of other teams hovering right around that 57 mark that aren't that far away. In essence, I'm essentially telling you their offense is super trash, and the inability to score is going to lead to many more losses in Pittsburgh if TJ Watt doesn't come back, say, next week. And he's not coming back next week. Next bite. Get a little bit of ranch here. Browns are now 18-6 when Nick Chubb has 100 or more yards rushing. So since 2018, when Nick Chubb was selected by the Cleveland Browns, they are 18-6 when Nick Chubb goes over the century mark, hits it or goes over it. What that says to me is, like the guy last night with the shirt that said, just run the ball, Kevin. Just get a damn ball to Nick Chubb. When he performs, generally, that's a great sign of things to come for this Browns offense and team overall. 18-6. So essentially 2/3 of the ball games that he eclipses 100 yards, they win. He needs more touches. And I get it. You got Kareem Hunt, and it's a great little combo. You never overwork either one because they're getting spelled. Make sure Nick Chubb's getting fed. At times last night, it was frustrating because they went away from the run, and I'm like, hey, this is the guy right here that's going to lead you to victory. Where are you going? You don't need to do anything else. Last bite. Rub it around real good. All the, when you pour ranch onto your pizza, you get the drops that fall onto your plate. right? I need to sop all of that up with this last bite. Steelers now fall to 0-6 all time without TJ Watt in the lineup. If that doesn't say everything, then I don't know what does. He is so vital to the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when he's not in the lineup, they don't stand a chance. And if you want to take it a step further, in games where he's left early without having played 50% of the snaps in that game total for the defense, they're 1-2-1 in those games as well. So they need TJ Watt like we need air to breathe. Okay. They would have beaten the Patriots if they had TJ Watt, because he would have been good for a sack or a strip sack, forced fumble that they would have recovered that would have led to points. The touchdown pass that Mac Jones throws to Nelson Aguilar, he might have gotten there and sacked, Mac Jones, or he might have disrupted him on that throw, and so it doesn't get to Nelson Aguilar. That's the kind of impact that TJ Watt has. Changes everything. Hell, they might have beaten the Browns last night with TJ Watt in the lineup. We'll never know. But I do know this. They're winless without him. That's for sure. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for Thursday Night Leftovers. That was delicious. We transition to my money picks of the week. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Money. Got these money picks of the week. So, week 3 is upon us. I'm 1-0 to kick off the week. I gave you guys Cleveland as my winner to kick the week off. They got it done. This is far from an easy week, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I am uncomfortable with the amount of road teams that I have selected to win this week, but I remain undeterred. If that's who I think is going to win, that's who I'm picking. I'm not taking a home team just because I've selected too many road teams. But generally speaking, when you pick this many road teams, you're going to get bitten in the ass. We'll see which ones prevail and which ones don't. But with that said, let's go through the list of these games. And you guys are going to help me get on track. So week 1, I was 9-6-1. Okay, we had the tie with the Colts and the Texans. And I think I misspoke earlier on one of the other shows where I said the Colts were 0-2. The Colts are 0-1-1. So I was 9-6-1 in week 1. I followed that up with a trifling 8-8 last week. It was a disturbing week for many of us in the game, right? Some of you are on the sidelines watching. You got the headset on. You're listening to the play call. Well, I'm in the game. I'm making picks. I'm trying to win. And last week was a rough week for those of us in the game. Okay. A lot of craziness going on. The Jets decided they wanted to win and come back in comeback fashion. That is, the Cardinals decided they wanted to rain on the Raiders, party and their home opener. The Steelers blew their home opener to the Patriots. Some of you picked the Panthers to beat the Giants, and they didn't get it done. I picked the Giants, so that wasn't a problem for me. But that was another one of those games where you could have said, "Damn, what the hell happened there?" Everybody picked Cincinnati to beat Dallas. Everybody. I don't think there was a single person that picked the Cowboys to win that game, and they won. And so there's too many of those types of games. Obviously, I picked the Washington Commanders over the Lions. That didn't go well. And there were several other games that just simply did not go in my favor. So last week was 8-8. I'm overall right now 17-14-1. That's way too close to 500 for my liking. Okay, way, way too close. We got to change that. So I look to do that today. And so here are my picks. So we start with what I think is the best matchup of week number 3. AFC East, family business, Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And boy, it doesn't get much better than this. 2-0 Buffalo, steamrolling everybody right now. Highest scoring team in the league, matched up against the Miami Dolphins. Another team that's just absolutely killing it. They were down big last week. They rallied. Tua throws 6 touchdown passes, including the game winner to Jalen Waddle to beat the Baltimore Ravens 42-38. They're 2-0 under new head coach Mike McDaniel. This is going to be a fun one because this might go a long way in determining who's going to be the Don Dada in the AFC East. Somebody's going to be the beast of the East, and it may be the winner of this football game. That they're going to take a step in the right direction. So there's a lot of players out for Buffalo in this game. Makes me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. They have their safety, Micah Hyde, is out of this game. Jordan Phillips, who has been a man possessed to start this game at defensive tackle, he's out of this game. I think there's one more guy that is a key contributor that will not be available for this game. That said, I had to talk some sense into myself because I was talking to Boss, and Boss was like giving me all the reasons why Miami he thought would win the game. And I'm like, yo, how soon we forget these boys were down 35-14. They were down 28-7 at one point in the game. Then 35-14 heading into the fourth quarter. Like, how soon we forget that they were getting their asses reamed before they came back and the Ravens imploded defensively. If the Ravens can do that to them, I'm pretty sure Buffalo, and that's family business, it changes just a bit. You know how it goes. Shit changes when you get inside with family, right? But if Baltimore has some success offensively and can put up points, why can't Buffalo? That's my mindset. That's the story. I'm sticking to it. I may be faulty there in my logic, but give me Buffalo on the road to get it done, run to 3-0, and quiet some of the Miami Dolphins talk for at least a week. Cincinnati at the Jets. The last time the Bengals traveled to New York to play the Jets, Mike White was the best thing since sliced bread. He was all over every news media outlet. His rookie cards were selling for $200-$300 when, a week prior you probably could get it for $2 or $3. He was all the rage because he lit the damn Cincinnati Bengals up en route to a victory. Have times changed since the last time these two teams met. Bengals have been to the Super Bowl. Mike White is an afterthought. Joe Flacco's now the backup in New York. And now Cincinnati's 0-2 in desperate need of a victory. Who would have thought Cincinnati would be 0-2 and the Jets would be 1-1 heading into this game? Who would have thought? But that's where we are. And you can't get any more desperate than the Cincinnati Bengals have to be going into this game. When we talk about backs against the wall, their backs are against the wall. They can't move back any further. They have to win this game. They don't win this game, their season is done. But they're going to win this game. The Jets, that was fun. That was cute. But just like the Dolphins, you have to remind yourself, yeah, they won, but they were down 13 points with 1:41 left in that ball game. They had no business winning that football game. It was 30-17. They were dead on arrival. And somehow the Browns managed to go over and get the defibrillator and bring them back to life twice. I got the Bengals getting off the schneid, getting their first win of the season, and finally putting a tally mark in the left-hand column. Raiders at Titans. Somebody's O has to go. Okay, 2 0-2 teams looking for their first dub of the season. Raiders have been this close to winning a game. Last week, they literally, maybe that was the Titans saying, hey, pick me. Pick me. I'm not picking you, man. I told you the Titans are going to suck this year. And they got to prove to me now. Here's the thing that could save them. Derrick Henry running the football like we know Derrick Henry is capable of. He hasn't had a game yet this season. Was shut down in week 1 against the Giants. Was even more useless in week 2 and ineffective against the Buffalo Bills. Maybe this is the week he finally breaks out, returns to the Derrick Henry of old, and rushes for 147 yards on just 21 carries and leads the Tennessee Titans to a victory. But my guess is that he won't be enough. They don't have a ton of weapons. The Raiders have Devontae Adams. They have no answer for Devontae Adams. The Raiders have Darren Waller. They got some safeties in Tennessee. But I still like Darren Waller. And then they've got Hunter Renfrow as well. I said all of that to say this. I'm going to take the Raiders. I may regret this. This might be one of the few roadies that I've selected that I don't really trust, but I trust them more than I trust the Titans. Give me the Raiders to get their first win of the season. I may regret that one. I'm not feeling 100% confident there, but I don't like the Titans. So give me the Raiders. Saints at the Panthers, NFC South family business. This is some ugly family business. I keep my nose out of family business that does not pertain to me. This is not a great game. By any stretch of the imagination, the Panthers are struggling offensively. They're inconsistent. Defensively, they give themselves a chance. The same exact thing can be said about the New Orleans Saints. I will say this about the Saints. They're going to get, more likely than not, Alvin Kamara back this week. That helps them a ton. Jameis Winston has to play better in order for them to have a chance. And if he does, I think they've got enough to beat Carolina, to score enough points to beat the Panthers and get their second win of the season and try to keep pace with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that division. Somebody's got to do it. If not New Orleans, then who? The Panthers are going to suck this year. Matt Rule may get fired. They're 0-3 after this one. Give me the Saints on the road to take the Carolina Panthers down. Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots. This is an interesting one because at first blush, I stare at the game and I just instantly think, oh, Baltimore's got way too much offense for New England. This is an easy one. But then I think about Belichick and his ability to slow down Lamar Jackson. Jackson had a sleeve on his elbow this week. You know, they've been having defensive breakdowns in the secondary of the Ravens. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get out of them defensively, but I still look at that Patriots offense and say, this isn't good enough. You're not playing the Steelers, who are offensively challenged this week, and 17 points is going to be enough to win. You're going to have to score upper 20s, low 30s to get it done against this Ravens offense, and I don't think the Patriots are capable of doing that. Thus, I'll take the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not sure 100% about this one, but I feel good enough. Give me the Ravens on the road. Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to be honest with you. NFC North family business. You know how the family do it. Actually, I don't. This is not my family business. However, I really wanted to pick Detroit here, man. I really want to pick the Lions. I wanted to make a statement here. Lions are for real. They're not playing. But I looked at the Lions defensively this season, and they gave up 38 to the Eagles. They gave up 27 to Washington in essentially 2 quarters of football. And I'm looking at that Vikings offense that got totally shut down by the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night, and they're ready to explode on someone. Justin Jefferson was pretty much shut out of that game. He's going to look to explode. This Lions defense is vulnerable. All right. I'm looking at Dalvin Cook, non-factor on Monday. He's looking to get back in the mix. I just see a lot of guys that are chomping at the bit to score some points. And this Lions defense looks like food. Now, I will tell you that Lions offense is also fully capable. I really wanted to pick Detroit, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's the Vikings in this game. I think they're going to take it. Give me Minnesota in a close one. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions went into Minnesota and won that game. But I'll take the Vikings in that football game. Eagles versus Washington. Normally, I save my predictions for Commanders Nightly News, but I've been very adamant all offseason that this week 3 matchup was a guaranteed win for Washington. I'm not backing down. I'm not, changing my pick now that the Eagles have gotten off to a hot start and Washington's doing Washington-like things. There's an opportunity here for Washington. Nobody thinks they're going to win this game. They've got nothing to lose, everything to gain right in front of them. This is an opportunity to make a statement to the rest of the league about a number of different things. I think they're going to do that. I'll take Washington at home. We'll see what happens. Weather may be a factor in that game as well. We'll see. Kansas City at Indianapolis. Colts finally get their home opener. They're 0-1-1 on the season. They were dreadful last week at Jacksonville. They desperately need a win, and they could use a shot in the arm like Shaq Leonard being back in the lineup. Except he's not. He's going to be out again in week 3. Doesn't bode well for them. Even if he had played, I don't know if it would have made a massive difference, but it would have made a big difference. The Chiefs are the better team. The Colts stink right now on offense specifically. I'll take Kansas City to go on the road, take care of business, and send Indy to 0-2-1 on the season. Houston Texans at the Chicago Bears. The Bears. This is a really fascinating game, not because it's one that you're dying to watch. Hell, I'm not dying to watch this game. Okay? These are two of the worst teams in football, or at least that's what we perceive them to be. Texans are 0-1-1 right now. Had an opportunity to be 2-0 right now. They should have beaten Indianapolis in week 1. They were up 20-3 in that game before blowing it in the fourth quarter. And they were playing, Denver was playing around with their food, and they were right in that ball game and had a chance to steal it, but they just don't know how to win yet. So Houston is very dangerous. But Chicago is at home. I think their defense is better than that of Houston's, even though Lovey is coaching those young boys up and got them out there flying around. I still think that they're going to protect, they being Chicago, going to protect their young second-year quarterback a little bit better than the Texans will protect their young second-year quarterback in terms of the run game and not putting too much on his shoulders. Thus, the Bears will win this game. It'll be ugly. It'll be something like 16-10. It'll be something like 19-13, but they'll get it done. Give me the Bears at the crib. Jacksonville at the Chargers. I thought long and hard about this one, not because I'm sold on the Jacksonville Jaguars being infinitely better than they were a season ago, which I am sold on them being infinitely better than they were a year ago because Urban Meyer was their coach last season. Enough said. Okay. However, there's been this conversation surrounding Justin Herbert this week and whether he would play. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to go for them. They're kind of playing it close to the vest, not really trying to, give out too much information on his status. He's practiced a bit this week, but not enough to make you comfortable. Jacksonville could easily show up on Sunday, get the great news that, hey, they're going to have to start Chase Daniel today. And that could give Jacksonville all they need to go out there and get a win. But they could also wake up on Sunday and get the news that they are expecting that Justin Herbert's going to play, and they could get torched. I'm bankrolling on the fact that the latter will occur and not the former. I'll take the Chargers, but if Herbert doesn't play, I expect the Jaguars to beat them. But I'm taking the Chargers in this football game. Rams at the Cardinals. NFC West family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Rams are struggling. Okay. Got mopped in week 1 by the Buffalo Bills. They were up 31-10 over the Atlanta Falcons and nearly blew that lead. Falcons had the football down 31-25 with, I'd say, 3 minutes left and had a shot at the end zone. Jalen Ramsey picks it off, and that pretty much sealed the deal for the Rams. But they were sitting on pins and needles late in that ball game after being up by 3 scores. I don't know about these Rams, man. They're not the same Rams from last year. I can assure you of that. But the Cardinals are struggling right now. They got to win, and I don't know what that's going to do for their confidence. It really may bolster their confidence to the point where, I don't know, maybe they could beat the Rams. They beat them last year in Arizona. I think it was in Arizona. No, they went to LA early in the season last year and lambasted the Rams. That was with DeAndre Hopkins. That was a different Cardinals team with a different swag. This Cardinals team right now is swagless. I'm going to take the Rams, but I'm not sure about this one. But I'm going to take the Rams. Green Bay at Tampa Bay. This is another tough one because the Buccaneers have 5 players on the injury report. 5 receivers, rather. Mike Evans is suspended. Julio Jones hasn't practiced all week. Neither has Chris Godwin. Scotty Miller is dealing with like a quad or something, but he's going to play more likely than not. Russell Gage is dealing with like a hamstring or something like that. Not sure if he's going to play in this game or not. I just named 5. They just signed Cole Beasley to their practice squad. He may have to play this week. They're so banged up at wide receiver. And then to make matters worse, Tom Brady hurt his hand in the win over the Saints. There's a lot going against Tampa in this game. But when it comes to Green Bay versus Tampa Bay, they some baby back bitches. That defense gets to Aaron's ass and he folds up like a cheap lawn chair in the middle of July. And because of that defense, because Tom Brady's still going to be on the other side, and I really don't give a shit who they went to New Orleans and he was throwing a Scotty Miller and Bashad Perriman and they won. If he can do it to the Saints, who play similar defense to the Green Bay Packers, if not better defense than the Packers, then, and this is the Buccaneers home opener, so they're going to be juiced and charged for it. I still got to roll with Tom and Tampa Bay. Give me the Buccaneers in this one. I don't believe in the Packers either, so makes it a lot easier to do that. And they got their own issues. What did I tell y'all about Samuel Watkins? I told Packers fans, enjoy him while you can because he's going to have a soft tissue injury. I don't make this stuff up, man. I've been doing this for far too long. Samuel Watkins out with a hamstring this week. I can always count on Sammy on time. Always on time. Never fails. I said the same thing about Tyrod Taylor when he was in Houston. What did he get hurt? Week 2, week 3? Said the same thing about Tyrod Taylor when he was with the Chargers. He gets an injection in his rib that punctures a lung, and he's out for the remainder of the season. Justin Herbert comes in as a rookie and never relinquishes the job. That's Tyrod Taylor. That's Samuel Watkins. Marcus Mariota is next up on the list. I hate to say it, and I don't wish bad on anybody, but it's just the way these things go. We'll see how much longer Marcus Mariota lasts before he has a soft tissue injury or he breaks his thumb on someone's helmet or something unfortunate and unforeseen happens to him and he's out for a specific amount of time. Falcons, speaking of Marcus Mariota, he's going to lead these Atlanta Falcons into Seattle against the 12th man and the Seattle Seahawks. Falcons have been this close to getting their first win of the season. They should have beat New Orleans in week 1. They had that game. They were up 26-10 and they blew it. They were getting their doors blown off in week 2. They rallied back and have the football with a chance. I'm going to tell you, Mariota's playing some good football. His athleticism is impacting defenses. He's throwing it well. Drake London looks legit. We know Kyle Pitts is the truth. Cordero Patterson is a problem. They've got stuff. They're just not that good on defense. And offensively, while they present some challenges, they're not consistent there either. But they're playing against a Seattle Seahawks team that is just awful on offense. God awful. Okay. They didn't even score a single point last week offensively. They got beat 27-7, I think. And the 7 was on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. Seattle will play better at home like they did in week 1. But somebody's going to win a game here with two teams that I don't think are going to be very good this year from a record standpoint. I think it's going to be the Falcons getting their first win of the season. Give me the Falcons on the road to go to Seattle and win. That could be a mistake. We'll see. 49ers at the Denver Broncos. Sunday Night Football. Sunday. 49ers are the better team. The Broncos are poorly coached. Offensively, they are ineffective, especially in the red zone. They are struggling. The fans are starting to turn on Nathaniel Hackett already. It's going to be a charged up environment to start, but the moment they get into the red zone and have to settle for a field goal or they have a stupid penalty, I told you the crowd was calling out the play clock to the Broncos offense like they were an opposing team in another team's gym in a basketball game. You know how the fans try to throw you off by screaming 5, 4, and it might be 11 seconds left on the shot clock, but they screaming out 5, 4, 3 to try to get you to force something up. Their crowd was literally chanting the play clock as it was counting down to make sure that they didn't get another delay of game. How bad is that? But that's where the Broncos are right now. They can't score in the red zone. Their coach is clueless. They got a delay of game penalty when they were about to kick a field goal from 54 yards that backed them up to 59 and they had to punt. That's the type of time the Broncos are on right now. I can't deal with it. Give me the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo, who have been there, done that, going into Denver and coming out victorious. And then there's Monday Night Football. Dallas at the Giants. NFC East family business. You know how the family do it. And this is my type of business right here. I'm all over this shit. This is going to be fun because neither one of these teams can score any damn points. Okay. So this shit's going to be fun. What I'm banking on in this game is that the team with the best defense is ultimately going to be victorious. Brian Daboll has tried to summons the crowd, told them to wear white. They're going to make it a whiteout. Giants are wearing their throwback white on white unis. They're going to be crispy. I'm talking about crispy. They're going to look so clean on Monday night with the old helmets that say Giants across the front. Oh, it's about to go down. Shades of Mark Bavaro and Phil Simms and Jeff Hostetler and Dave Meggett and Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks and Leonard Marshall. They all start to fill your head if you're a Giants fan. And then Michael Parsons is going to knock you silly and wake your ass up. Neither one of these offenses are any good right now, but the Cowboys have the better defense. Dan Quinn has these boys flying around like they got flames coming out of their asshole. And they're being led by Michael Parsons, who is unblockable right now at this current juncture. As long as Cooper Rush, you put in a rush on me, but I'd like to know you better, baby. As long as Cooper Rush doesn't give it away, this Cowboys team will take it away from the Giants. This is going to be fun because this shit's about to be 17-13, 19-16. First team to 20, if anybody makes it, wins. Give me the Cowboys over the Giants to even up the two teams at 2-1 on the season. So those are my money picks of the week. Feel damn good about them too. There's a couple in there, not really sure about. We'll see, but I feel so much better because I was able to give them to you guys. Y'all are going to help me go no worse than 11-5 this week. Look alive. Here I come, 11-5. Look alive. Here I come. I'd love to be 12-4, but that's asking a lot. I'm off to a good start. I won Thursday night. We'll see. Got a couple of super chats, or maybe just one super chat. I think I just got one super chat. From Rosario Satara Poliski. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Rosario Satara Poliski writes, would like some custom command post tea mugs. Also segment for podcasts, pods request tea time with Louie T. Nice one. Can't wait for command post overtime show. I can't wait either, especially if it's after a dub. If it's after a loss, I'm not going to be dreading it because I don't run, I don't duck, and I don't hide. But I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy, but I can't wait. Anyway, let's see what comments you guys have out there. I asked a couple of questions at the top of the show, and I'll knock a couple of these out. Later, I want to knock a couple of these out. See if any of y'all use the hashtag. I see comments. I don't see any hashtags. I'll just read a couple of them anyway. So, Kyle said Twisted Metal. Oh, man, Twisted Metal was so much fun. That was a fun game, Twisted Metal. I remember playing Twisted Metal. I remember playing Twisted Metal a lot as a kid. They had a bunch of those, too. A bunch of Twisted Metals. That was a fun game. Rich says, I wish Fight Night came out with the sequel. If we're being less technical, NCAA, but NCAA is confirmed coming back and Fight Night is reportedly on its way back. I was a big Fight Night guy. I loved Fight Night. As a matter of fact, I went and bought Fight Night for my PS3. I went and bought Fight Night, the last one that was for the PS2, and played it on my PS3. And I was playing that shit like I had never played it before. I went and bought it. It was like $11 at GameStop. And I was playing the hell out of that shit. I made like some dudes that were real boxers that weren't on the game, and I would fight with them. Man, I love me some Fight Night. That's another one of those story modes that you go through trying to win championships, and it gets harder and harder as you go further and further. I hated playing that shit online, though. It's like dudes be cheating. Swear to God. It's like they had like a bot playing for them or something. They throwing 8 punches to my like 2 punches. Like, this shit can't be real. Anyway, that was a fun game too. And I wish that was a game that you said it's coming out. I'd like to see it. 16 Devil Doc says Super Tecmo Bowl. Okay. I wasn't the biggest Tecmo Bowl guy. I played it. I wasn't a big fan of the running straight, then sideways, up and zigging and zagging shit. But hey, look, when that was the only game to play, you had fun with it. Let's see. Someone said Weapon Lord. I've never played that game before. 16 Devil Doc says X-Men Legends on the Xbox. Let's see. I think that's it. All I see from that. Anyway, that's it. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this latest installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys over the weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the college football. Enjoy boxing. Whatever you're going to get into, enjoy it. and then we'll reconvene on Sunday for some National Football League action. Hopefully, I'm coming back talking about some wins. You know what I'm talking about. James Moody said Knockout Kings. That was fun. And really, Fight Night was the sequel to Knockout Kings. But the controls on Knockout Kings was different than the controls on Fight Night. So it was definitely different and fun. But they went to the more, realistic, because Knockout Kings was on the PS2. So there was no the little joysticks that you use to control the punching on Fight Night. You didn't do that. You just hit buttons, top button. You had to hold down one of the top buttons and hit that in combination with another button to do like an uppercut or a hook, things of that nature. But I loved the boxing games. Kevin, the PRF says, I'm old. Mike Tyson punch out shit. That's right up my alley, man. Love me some Mike Tyson punch out. You would play that shit for hours and hours. Question. Does anybody know the name of the kid that you're fighting as in Mike Tyson punch out? Ransom says NFL Street. I wasn't a big, NFL Street was like a spinoff of Blitz. And if you guys are old enough, you remember Blitz when it first came out. And that was cool. I played Blitz a little bit, but that was one of those things where it was like cool when it first came out. And then I was like, I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore. But I wasn't the biggest NFL Street guy. I got my little Blitz fix in, and then I got out of there. So anyway, I digress. But that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Enjoy your weekend. And I will be back on Sunday. I may even be back before then. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you got your notification bell on. All right. Especially if you're a Washington fan, you'll enjoy it. Octane ATL3 says Mac. Yes. Little Mac was his name. The mickety Mac. Bow, bow. Anyway, y'all get out of here. Have a great weekend. And I will see you guys later.